We're joined by Sylacauga City School Superintendent Dr. Todd Freeman. And Dr. Freeman, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Jimmy Dave.
It has been a whirlwind
Yes,
this
sir.
year, hasn't it? The first few months. I know you've accepted the Vestavia Hills School Superintendent's job, and know that's a step forward as well. But let's talk about your time here in Sylacauga. Some great accomplishments in your tenure.
Yes, sir, Jimmy Dale. It has flown by. It's been almost 5 years when we came in July of 2013, and it's been a great experience for us. I tell you, it's been the most gratifying personal and professional 5 years in my life. So many things have happened on both fronts. But yeah, we've had a lot of things to do. I would say what has most consumed the time has been around construction. We have just finished last week with baseball and softball's ribbon cutting, over $32 million of capital projects, and that actually started in 2010. And I picked it up when we got going here in 2013, wrapped that up, but that was due in large part, we were able to continue it because our voters, you might remember 3 years ago this month, gave the okay to extend a $9.5 million property tax that allowed us to do all the athletic renovations. So we hit the ground running very quickly on that, and of course there's been a number of other things that we've done that I think have been great. Our board had a great vision, I think, with the strategic plan that we put in place during that year to focus on teaching and learning and how we could best provide the opportunities for our kids to have them college and career ready. And so we've been able to expand career and technical programs, and of course you've talked numerous times on this station about that.
And all this is ever changing too, you know.
It is. It is. We've tried to be attuned to those things that the workforce needs. Health science is probably, it's our emerging area in career and technical programs. We've got one teacher, hope we have two next year, and that program's really taken off. We've added biomedical sciences, pre-engineering. Of course, manufacturing was just getting started, but trying to be attentive to those things for the many of our students that will graduate here and eventually live in Sylacauga.
Dr. Todd Freeman, our guest this morning. He is the superintendent of the Sylacauga City Board of Education, and he will, his resignation will be effective on March the 12th. And these last couple of months have been busy as well because you know, it first came out several months ago about you being named one of the finalists for the Vestavia Hills position. Then there was 3, and then there was 1. Your thoughts about when you were first contacted for this?
Yes. Well, I was contacted back in November about my interest in making application. And so I gave that much consideration. After Thanksgiving, I did apply. And then shortly thereafter, early December, I was named as one of the 4 finalists. So we spent the Christmas holidays preparing for what was to come with interviews and so forth. And then January was a time where we interviewed, and then they had board members visit Sylacauga, and they visited Auburn, where I'd worked previously, just to interview those who had worked with me. And then on January 31st, the board made the decision to name me as their next superintendent. So it happened really quick. It seems like a long time, but that was happening really fast. And in the midst of all of that, I'm doing my job. You know, so those are things that, of course, that's there's no pity in all that. That's just what we asked for. But we are in the throes of advanced ed accreditation right now in Sylacauga, and so we were beginning to wrap those things up. So a lot of things happening just right there at one time.
Well, you got a long history in education too, going back a number of years.
Well, I do. I started in 1993 in Auburn as a social studies teacher, and I spent 10 wonderful years doing that. I don't think I was a very good teacher, frankly. I go into great teachers' classrooms now, and I feel quite inadequate, frankly. But I did that. I coached baseball, and I coached football, and then I accepted a position in 2003 in the Auburn schools as the Director of Operations and Services, and that's where I spent a lot of time building buildings and doing facilities, assessments, and so forth. And then in 2010, I was asked to serve as the principal at Auburn High School, which was a school of about 1,500 students, 10 through 12, and spent 3 great years doing that, and was asked here, like I said, in July of 2013, began the superintendency.
Well, obviously you're not afraid of new frontier because at Auburn, Sylacauga, and now Vestavia Hills coming up in a few weeks. But let's talk a little bit more about how Dr. Freeman leaves Sylacauga with a gratitude, and also knowing that, hey, it's been a job well done by a lot of people.
It is, and it certainly, what makes our system strong in Sylacauga is that it's a team effort, and I really mean that. Our Board of Education is incomparable. They are excellent leaders. They understand governance very well, and despite what you might think from time to time, if you go to a board meeting or otherwise, you might not think that they're as involved, but they're very involved, and they are the vision setters for the system. And so knowing that, those members are still in place, and the system will continue to move forward. At the same time, we've got wonderful teachers. Our retention rate is very high of teachers, so we keep our teachers in place and got great administrators. But then, boy, we have great community support, Jimmy Dale. As you know, you're one of our partners. We've got so many that are interested in what is best for our schools, our retirement community, SAFE, the library, our city council. There's so many, and then you get into the business and industry partnerships we have. That's what makes our school system great, and it's certainly much bigger than one person or even several people, and that's why it will continue on this upward trajectory that it's on.
Dr. Todd Freeman, our guest this morning. Your thoughts when you first heard and saw the news of the school shooting last week in Florida. It seemed like more and more our security has come under a microscope, and that's certainly important here at Sylacauga City School Systems as well.
It is, and that's something that you wake up every day with. I think even as a parent and a school administrator, a school employee, and you're not sure what may happen in a given day. I travel to work every morning, and you just be reflective of what you might prepare for. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in. We do have, I think, a very strong safety plan. We want it to improve. Our city supports us with 2 school resource officers, and we're looking at ways to strengthen that particular part of our safety program, but safety is including other things. We have a great partnership with Alta Point in mental health therapy, and they provide a school-based therapist to us. That is incredibly important. We've added counselors this year to perform different roles that we think better prepare and help the whole child to be able to learn. And that's in addition to having facilities that are well maintained and safe. And also these partnerships, as I mentioned, like the police. So it's a very well-rounded safety plan and comprehensive in nature. But all that still doesn't eliminate some of the risks that does exist, unfortunately.
Dr. Todd Freeman, our guest this morning, and of course Sylacauga's basketball team in the Final Four for the second year in a row.
Yes, outstanding. Coach Copeland has, 3 years ago, Coach Copeland won and his team won the basketball tournament in Lincoln, the county tournament. And it was that point that you could really see a turn in the program, and Coach had been working so hard. And I tell you, it takes time with a program. You got to be willing to be committed and let it evolve, and it has. And last year we made the Final Four. This year we made it again on a couple of wonderful games in Montgomery. So we play Wednesday night at 7:30 against Talladega, our rival. That's an exciting thing for Sylacauga and for the county. So I'm excited about that.
And the ribbon cutting this past weekend with the new baseball and softball complexes for Sylacauga sports.
That was fun to see. You've probably been a part of a lot of sweat equity over the years that's tried to maintain those fields. Our Board of Education was able to do some very large-scale renovations at softball and baseball, and basically have new fields, new bleachers surrounding, new dugouts, dressing areas, indoor hitting cages, lights, scoreboards. We wanted to do it the right way, and it took a collaborative effort, and not just the board, but the City Council, Parks and Recreation, Sylacauga Babe Ruth Association. That's how you get things done, is with teamwork. And it was a gratifying thing to watch our students cut those ribbons Tuesday and Friday last week.
And we must remember that these are student athletes.
Yes.
Their education is foremost in everybody's mind.
It is, and you know what, we want the very, very best for them, and we believe facilities is an important part of that. If you set high expectations for having facilities that are top-notch and you maintain those, I think it sets the expectation for all other things. And for student athletes, the field of play is very important, but it's also teaching skills that help them be successful on the academic side.
Dr. Frank Costanza has been named the interim superintendent effective March 12th, and he's no stranger to our community either.
He's not. Dr. Costanzo has a long history in public schools, and he retired as a superintendent in Tuscaloosa County several years ago and is still actively involved in a lot of public school arena. And he actually did an interim superintendency in Talladega City a couple of years ago, did a fantastic job there. He met the staff in my office and our administrative team last week, and he's an outstanding leader, and he will continue to move and to keep the ship steady, so to speak, the next few months while the board is developing their plan for a new superintendent.
The transition for you personally from Sylacauga to Vestavia, you got to keep a lot of balls in the air in that transition.
Well, we do, and right now we're just balancing a few things personally and professionally, but certainly moving is tough, and I don't like to move, frankly. It's not something that I stayed in my hometown my whole life and stayed in Auburn 20 years. It was difficult to move to Sylacauga, not because we didn't want to come to Sylacauga, but I just was a homebody. And so we've been here 5 years. It's going to be equally difficult. We've established some wonderful friendships. Our two boys have been born while we were here. We have a wonderful church. I have a fantastic job and what I think is one of the great systems in our state. So the emotional side of it, frankly, is a real difficult thing. We're so excited to have a new opportunity and a new challenge and in a wonderful system that's very similar in a lot of ways. Very supportive community, high expectations. So all of that's very similar, but we're going to miss our time here.
Well, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the move from the old Board of Education office down to the state-of-the-art one here on Broadway.
That's been a great move right across the street from you, and we restored an old building, and we got a great deal on that building, and I thought that was good use of our public funds, and it's 16,000 square feet, and we open it to many folks in town that want to use it for educational events. It's a community center for us.
Now, you are a budget kind of person. You like the numbers to match up.
Yes, absolutely. That's something that we aggressively worked on in the beginning when we moved here. Our budget's in good shape. I've got a great CFO that manages those things, but it's set up well for us to move into the future. And I think because our economy is beginning to resurge in Sylacauga, I think that's only going to be beneficial to our school system. But I feel comfortable with the capital side and the general fund side for the next superintendent.
Finally, this morning we were visiting a few minutes with Dr. Todd Freeman, who's the Sylacauga City Board of Education Director, and so of course he will be leaving on March the 12th and begin a new job at Vestavia Hills City Schools. How would you like to be remembered, Dr. Freeman, in your tenure here at Sylacauga? Well,
I think if I might use a illustration from a Christian song I heard years ago about the life of a Christian, that we would be found faithful in whatever our beliefs are. In the case of the school system, that I would be found to have done the things that were asked of me. I didn't always meet expectations, I'm sure, disappointed at times, but it would have been known that I gave it my best. And had the best interests of all of our students in mind when we made decisions, and that I did none of this by myself. All of these things were collective parts. And if anything, I would hope that we could leave saying that we can do anything when we work together. I think that's a legacy I would hope we would all be able to leave.
All right, Dr. Todd Freeman, our guest this morning. Thanks for being with us. And thank you. Thank you for your 5 years here and continued success at Vestavia. I know you do a great job there.
Thank you, Jimmy Dale.
We got more Daybreak just ahead.